2 hours. I would like to ask Steve Carlson to be the first to answer this question. Do you support the continuation of the don't ask, don't tell policy in the U.S. military?
Well, I think that the court should not be making this decision. I think this is a decision that needs to be made by the leaders of the military, I think the professional military, and not just the civilians, because I think that it's very important. I've been in the Air Force and I've been in combat support situations, and I know it's not time to be talking about politics. You have to have unit cohesion. Generally, I found that the don't ask, don't tell, we didn't have it in place at that time, but that was the general practice. That essentially codifies the practice that's always been there. I don't see any reason to change it. I'm troubled by the decision of this district court, and I'm glad that the Ninth Circuit has gone ahead and enjoined that, because this is not something we're doing in the military. It's politics.
Thank you very much. Betty McCollum, if you'd be the next candidate to answer the same question, do you support continuation of the don't ask, don't tell policy in the U.S. military?
I have voted to repeal don't ask, don't tell. We have fellow citizens, people who want to serve our military, people who want to defend our liberties, and there should be no discrimination against them. We should not tell them to have to hide who they are. We should celebrate the fact that they're willing to stand up and defend our freedoms. Secretary Gates and the Pentagon have been moving towards an orderly transformation and working out the logistics of informing soldiers and how headquarters are going to move to make sure that we have an orderly process. But I want to make it real clear. People who want to serve our country and wear our uniform, we should honor them and we should treasure them.
Thank you very much. Teresa Collett, would you be the third candidate to answer the same question? Do you support the continuation of the don't ask, don't tell policy in the U.S. military?
Well, there are 2 points that Congresswoman McCollum and I agree on. Number one is that it's important to value those men and women who are willing to put their lives on the line in order to protect our freedom. And number 2, the opinion of the professional military in this country is important. That's why I find the current district court opinion so troubling. In fact, Secretary Gates is in the process of evaluating the military readiness that impact from altering that rule. And it seems to me that when we have thousands of men and women in the battlefield right now defending our freedoms, that that's the question. Will it adversely impact our military readiness? And only the military can answer that question, not some sort of lifelong appointee in the judicial system. And I believe that as a Congresswoman, it would be appropriate to defer to the military and their evaluation of its impact on military readiness. That's the test I will use when I'm elected.
Thank you. Steve Carlson has indicated an interest in a rebuttal. You have 30 seconds for your rebuttal.
Thanks. I just want to say that there's no issue here of not honoring anybody who's in the military. Would it be right if the straight commanders or the straight soldiers went around and started openly trying to proselytize and talk to people about their sexuality? No, and they don't do that. If they do, that's something that needs discipline. You need to respect everybody. What we do is shave everybody's head and give them the same uniform so they all feel equal and feel that they have them.
Thank you very much. Our second question this evening is also of great interest to our audience. We have a number of questions that circulate around the topic of health care. I'd like Teresa Collett to be the first to answer this question. Given the perspective of our audience being both healthcare professionals, senior citizens, new parents, and retirees, can you please discuss the benefits of healthcare reform for those populations?
Certainly, healthcare reform needs to take into account the unique demographics of each of those populations. And that's the fundamental flaw in Obamacare as it was passed. We have seen repeatedly, from the announcements by McDonald's to the announcements by Medtronic, that Obamacare requires a one-size-fits-all policy. That's why many of the universities are deciding whether or not to continue to offer their health insurance. The only way that the present health care bill was affordable was by cutting the doctor's pay. And when they discovered that doctors would flee the system of providing Medicare and Medicaid beneficiaries, they put in the doc fix, which immediately made the particular bill a budget buster. This bill is a disaster for seniors and for young parents and for college students, and I will vote to repeal it and replace it with affordable, patient-centered health care.
Yeah. Thank you. We do have a number of questions to get through this evening, and you will be certainly welcome to applaud your favorite candidate at the end of the evening. Would Steve Carlson, our second candidate, also be willing to answer the same question? Our audience this evening includes healthcare professionals, senior citizens, new retirees, and new parents. Would you please address how healthcare reform would benefit these populations?
Well, again, you're talking about two different kinds of healthcare reform. Some people think that the Obamacare is healthcare reform, and really all it is health coverage reform. So if we're going to talk about health care reform, yes, it does need to be a targeted approach, and again, it needs to put the control of decisions in people's hands. And like Teresa has said, there's a lot of individuality and a lot of diversity, and so you can't just have a big bureaucracy that's going to improve health care in any respect. Now, I want to say that I know that Betty doesn't support this bill either, because she's already put a bill in for the public option is House Resolution 5808. And so now maybe public option, universal care, might try to do that, but it would have a great deal of difficulty just because it would be so one size fits all, as Teresa has said. There's more to say on this, I'm sure.
Thank you. Betty McCollum, if you would address the same question, please. The members of our audience represent healthcare professionals, senior citizens, new retirees, and new parents. Would you please discuss healthcare reform and how it can benefit them?
Well, I'm very proud of the work that I did to pass this law, and it's a great law for Minnesota. Here's why. It makes healthcare coverage a right for all Americans. That's a priority for me since I came to Congress. It improves access by lowering costs. It does that because it's fully paid for. In fact, it reduces the federal deficit by nearly $115 billion over the next 10 years. But I think what's most important is it improves quality, lowers costs, and creates better access for families and businesses. It extends, as I said, health care coverage to 32 million Americans. Pre-existing conditions can no longer be used to discriminate against someone from health care coverage. It covers all children, and it closes the donut hole for seniors. I am proud of this bill, and I will oppose any effort to return to the days of no consumer rights.
Steve Carlson, you've got 30-second rebuttal.
Okay, this could have been done, and here's what I would like to do. Quite frankly, I have to say that I have already heard Teresa say that she doesn't think we can repeal it because of the fact that Obama will veto it. So I'm the only person who has said we can selectively repeal or defund a lot of the programs, the new programs, 150 programs that have come on, in return for allowing us to repeal this and put something in place that we actually want. So I want to negotiate, and I would really like to hear what Teresa has to say, whether she thinks she has to wait till there's a new president or not, because I've heard both ways.
Teresa Collett has indicated an interest in a 30-second rebuttal.
When we have 2/3 majority in the Senate and the House, we will be able to override the presidential veto. There is no question that President Obama will, in fact, veto to repeal this. Now, when I initially said that I was not optimistic about that, we were not at this point in the campaign. The fact is that most Democrats are running away from Obamacare, and so I am more optimistic than I was initially. But I'd also like to respond to Congresswoman McCollum's points. According to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, healthcare spending will increase 6.3%. I see my time's out, but there were a number of fallacies. Thank you.
Thank you. Betty McCollum has indicated an interest in a 30-second rebuttal.
Well, this is another example of taking our country backwards. This is not a government takeover. It is a law private employer-based health care. It strengthens Medicare for our seniors, and it will reduce, I repeat, it will reduce the federal deficit.
And this is our one chance this evening to hear our candidates speak. I'd like to hear their perspectives on the issues. If you would please hold your applause.